Now, Syrians head to the polls today to vote in presidential elections. Only voters in government-held areas of the war-torn country can cast their ballot. The opposition claims the poll is a farce. It says President Bashar al-Assad, who is running for a fourth 7-year term, is preordained to win. It is the second presidential election since the civil war erupted 10 years ago.
Bashar al-Assad's face is all over the Syrian capital, Damascus. His campaign posters dwarf those of the other two candidates cleared by the legislature to compete. The final vote tally is expected to show similar dominance by Assad. So why is everyone so sure of an Assad victory? To start with, not all Syrians can participate. Only residents of areas under government control can vote, in the country that has the largest number of displaced people in the world. Those in rebel-held districts are ineligible, and the autonomous Kurdish regions in the north are not participating. Millions of Syrians have fled the country during its years of civil war. Some of those living abroad can vote, like here in Lebanon. On the other hand, Germany has forbidden the Syrian consulate from registering voters. President Bashar al-Assad is running against two other men, Abdullah Salloum Adbullah and Mahmoud Ahmed Marei, who stand very little chance of winning. They qualified for the vote after an extremely restrictive process in parliament. All candidates must have the support of 35 members of parliament, which is overwhelmingly dominated by Assad's Ba'athist party. Candidates must have lived in Syria continuously for 10 years, excluding anyone from the diaspora. And they must be married to a Syrian citizen. The United Nations has said it is not involved in the election, and the U.S. says without UN involvement, it won't recognize the results. Syrian media says the regime has invited observers, but from regime-friendly countries like Russia, Iran, China, and Venezuela. The last elections were held in 2014 at the height of the civil war, and saw Assad win in a landslide, in a vote that was also widely condemned by the US and the EU as neither free nor fair.
Let's get some analysis on this now with journalist Kristen Hellberg, one of Germany's leading experts on the Middle East and Syria. Kristen, thank you for joining us. We saw there's pretty much no doubt that Syria's President Bashar al-Assad will be the winner here. He will get another 7-year term in office. Is there anything that we should watch out for that could come as a surprise in this election?
I don't think there's going to be any surprise. President Bashar al-Assad needs this election to legitimize his rule internally and externally, because especially his very strong ally Russia is seeking the rehabilitation of the Assad regime internationally, because Syria lies in ruins. It needs money for reconstruction. So what Vladimir Putin aims at is reconstruction being paid by the West, by the Europeans and the Americans. So they want to put some dynamic into this rehabilitation of the regime by claiming this election to be some kind of democratic, by putting two other candidates there, basically, which doesn't make it any more democratic than it used to be without candidates.
Okay, but let's talk about that legitimacy domestically at home, because as you said, the country is in ruins. The economy is in free fall. How much support is there for Assad beyond the propaganda that we see?
It is very important to understand that this election is an opportunity for Syrians to prove their loyalty to the regime. And this is important in a dictatorship and in a police state, because it gives you security. It could save your life. It could save you from detention. It could bring you some more humanitarian aid. It could bring you a permission by the Secret Service that you need to maybe get back to your own house. So many Syrians use this actually to say that they are on the side of the president, obviously, because they are afraid of being detained or being persecuted. So this is very important. What we have seen during the last months is a growing discontent and even critics by his own supporters, by people in the media, journalists, judges, lawyers, civil servants, who have spoken out, especially on social media, on the very bad economic conditions and the mismanagement of the government itself. So these people were detained, and they were just released just before the elections in this presidential amnesty. So this is the message to the people living there. Look, you are not supposed to criticize what I'm doing in this country. Just go and elect me for now. But it's important to see, to understand these pictures. When you see all these people rallying for Assad, this is a way to really save your life or to make you, to gain a little bit from this regime and its methods in the country.
And this 10 years after the civil war erupted in Syria, do you think that this election is also Bashar al-Assad trying to take this as a turning point to say the war has been won, now we look into the future?
Well, he's definitely sending different signals, different messages with this. First of all, he's saying that he doesn't care about any UN-led process because there is a constitutional committee that is supposed to meet in Geneva and that is supposed to create a new constitution first and then have democratic elections under UN surveillance. Bashar al-Assad delayed the work of this committee for several months. So the last meeting was in January and it ended without any results. So he's saying, I don't care for UN processes. I'm just going to stay here. He's also saying to Russia that he's not going to go anywhere in a deal, that maybe Vladimir Putin would broker with the West saying that, okay, we'll let Bashar al-Assad go and look for somebody else who could replace him. He's basically saying that he's going to stay where he is. He is dependent on the people who keep him in power, which is important to understand. It's Iran and Russia internationally. It's militia leaders, warlords, and the business elite internally. All these people want to be rewarded by Assad himself, which makes Syria basically a mafia state because these people are enriching themselves by bribes, by controlling the black market, by smuggling things, by taking humanitarian aid for their own militia members. So this is basically what these regime supporters are seeing themselves and what they were criticizing. But Bashar al-Assad cannot stabilize the country because he needs these people who kept him in power until now, because he needs them in the future to keep him there.
Journalist Kristen Hellberg, thank you very much for that analysis.
My pleasure.